Here's how he intends to make plastic and sustainability a viable business. Please welcome Tom Peacock-Nazil, CEO and co-founder, 7 Clean Seas. Tom?
Hi there, thank you for having me today. My name is Tom Peacock-Nazil. I'm the founder of 7 Clean Seas. We're a Singapore-based ocean cleanup organization. We're a certified business for good, which means we're a social enterprise. And really, we're trying to fix one of the world's biggest problems, which is the ocean plastic crisis. But as we go down this road of trying to address this with infrastructure and teams and various different strategies, we're super aware that we also want to be trying to make people's lives better. And a couple of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals that we're holding really close to our heart as we grow is number 1, which is no poverty, and number 5, gender equality. So looking at trying to hire people from vulnerable backgrounds. The hospitality industry at the moment with kind of mass layoffs, unfortunately, in many vulnerable locations is a great opportunity for us to partner with. And I believe you heard from Andrew Dixon, who runs Nicoy Island and Chempedek Island earlier. Now, we are actually partners with Andrew, and it's a lot of his staff who are currently on furlough, who we're working with to help supplement their wage and really create 2 benefits for the price of 1. You're getting that employment, but you're also getting that environmental benefit to a marine protected area nonetheless. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. So why did we decide to do this? Why did we decide to try and clean up the oceans? Now, if we're looking at the issue itself, it doesn't take a genius to figure out why we're in this solution. There are 2 billion people who don't have access to waste management, and that is a ridiculously high number. And unfortunately, a lot of these people reside in areas of ecological significance, areas of natural beauty, areas that actually overlap very heavily with the hospitality industry. Quite often when we're talking about rural and island locations, the kind of geographical spread of people is really quite large. The population density is low, so it's very difficult to use traditional waste management infrastructure and economics to collect that waste, bring it back, sort it, aggregate it, and recycle it for a profit. And if it's not profitable, unfortunately, the waste management industry is not a charity. It's not going to exist. So what we end up with is these huge areas of outstanding natural beauty being absolutely littered in plastic. To try and give you some ideas of volumes, a new study was released very recently that said that actually 11 million metric tons of plastic are flowing into our oceans every year. And that if things carry on as they are today, by 2040, this is going to increase to 29 million metric tons. Now, if like me, you can't really envision what that looks like, take, for example, every single meter of coastline globally. That's Antarctica as well, everything. It's the equivalent of 50 kilograms of plastic on each one of those meters. 50 grams of plastic on every meter of coastline globally, every single year. It's a huge issue today. It's going to be an even bigger issue tomorrow, and we need to get on top of this before it's too late. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. So if you look at what we've achieved today, we're very proud to say we've removed around 65,000 kilos of plastic. You know, in a normal circumstance, that is a huge achievement. But we're realistic when we look at this figure and we say, okay, well, it's actually a drop in the ocean. Sorry for the bad joke, but it is literally a drop in the ocean compared to the scale of the issue. And what we need to be doing is finding a way to scale up our impact, scale up the amount of plastic we can recover and stop from flowing into the oceans before we pass that precipice that we can't come back from. Next slide, please. Okay, so if you look at what our goals are and what we're trying to achieve, we've set ourselves a 2025 target, and that is to be operational in the 7 worst plastic polluting countries. Now, you can see the list on the left, and the 2 green ones, so Indonesia and Malaysia, are where we've already got operations in place. In Indonesia, again, it's our team of 22 that we've got with Nicoy and Chempedek Island. But we also want to recover 10 million kilos of marine debris by 2025, which sounds like a huge kind of leap forward. But with what we've got going on and the strategies, which I'll discuss in a moment, it is absolutely achievable. Next slide, please. So if we're looking at our strategy, how are we going to achieve this? Well, the first thing is we want to really focus on employing people who are actually in need of employment opportunities to do environmental plastic recovery, looking at areas of ecological significance like marine protected areas, coastlines within those areas, mangrove systems, but actually then take it a step further and say, okay, the reason a lot of plastic is in this particular situation is because a lot of the communities don't have waste management. So can we even provide that most basic of human rights and start providing plastic waste management to these communities? The second angle of this is realizing that the vast majority of plastic in the ocean originates from from rivers. So if we really want to get a good return on our investment when it comes to ocean plastic, actually a good place to start is looking at river technology. We've teamed up with Marina Bay Sands in Singapore and developed a river cleanup system which is both high volume and low cost. It's not been publicly released yet, but we're hoping to have them on the water by 2021. The next stage, once we've done the collection, is how do we unlock a value in that material, in that plastic? We need to source it into different types of plastics, bale it, store it until we've got quantities high enough to be able to sell it to the recycling industry. And this is the project we're working on in Bintan alongside our team of 22 people who we've hired with Nikoi. The idea is to start building the ecosystem slowly until we've got a completely kind of all-inclusive ecosystem that stops plastic entering the marine environment but also recovers it at the same time. And the last is actually to try and find a way to decentralize recycling. In a kind of island nation like Indonesia, it's very unlikely that you're going to have recycling infrastructure on each island. So it's very difficult for people to collect that plastic and actually do what is right and essentially put it through the recycling industry. If we're able to take the first few kind of segments of recycling, which is kind of shredding, cleaning, and putting it in a bale, not only can we reduce something that is kind of volumetric into a dense product, but it's also low value into high value. So that money can be fed back into the community. Next slide, please. Okay, so obviously building all this infrastructure does cost money. Now, traditional waste management doesn't make financial sense in a lot of these island and rural areas, like I mentioned earlier. So we need to look at something else. We've got to find a way to disconnect the material value of that plastic from the infrastructure investment that is needed to stop plastic leakage. And our answer to this is plastic offsetting. It's a scalable funding mechanism. The idea is that a company, a hotel, a person can understand what their plastic footprint is and commission 7 Clean Seas to recover that same quantity of plastic from the marine environment on their behalf, thus becoming plastic neutral. We describe it as a win-win-win, and the reason is because the purchaser gets a win, a marketing win and an environmental win when they get to be plastic neutral. We get a mandate to clean the oceans, and we get the investment we need to build the infrastructure required to stop plastic entering the oceans in the first place. Next slide, please. So there are a couple of methodologies. Some of our clients in the early days took this first one, which is they have a product, that product supply chain, the product packaging, or the product itself has a plastic footprint. They offset that plastic footprint with us and they can achieve plastic neutrality. It's great for the environment, but it's also good for PR, marketing, communications, endless benefits from a business perspective. Next slide, please. The other way to look at it is take your entire company. Is it a resort? Is it an event? Is it just a company? Can you measure that entire plastic footprint? Can we understand what plastic is being used and then actually use that data to then set recovery targets to achieve plastic neutrality? That way, if it's applied locally within the region of your hospitality industry, not only are you achieving plastic neutrality and having that little effect on the natural environment, but you're also improving and lifting up the environment and the natural kind of ecosystems around you. Next slide, please. So that brings us to the end of my presentation. What I'd like to say is that this is a new market. It is something that a lot of people haven't heard about. And there are endless opportunities here, not just to create employment opportunities to people who are absolutely in need. And the hospitality industry is perfect because they're already in the locations that need a lot of this help. But also we get to clean the oceans. You know, it's the first profitable way to actually fund ocean cleanup and infrastructure building where it doesn't make sense. If you'd like to learn more, please feel free to come over to our website and send us a message, or you can just email us directly at hello@sevencleanseas.com. Thank you very much for your time today. Hope you found that interesting. Thanks, Yuhun.